Daiwa. Alpha's Air. Get you one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bass Cave. I've upgraded. I got better lighting and got a bigger work table here to work with. But what we're doing today, I got these parts in to do the clicking drag on the couple reels, the Alpha's Air, and also in another, I may make a whole separate video or not one at all, but I'll be doing the Revo also to show you how that one goes. Probably make two videos because they are a little different. So anyway, I'm going to tear into this. I'm going to stop filming. I'll get this apart. Everybody should know, if you don't know how to take this stuff off to get to where the drag is, then you probably shouldn't try this. But basically what we'll be doing is switching out these parts that are here with the stock parts, and then you'll get the clicking. So when you get down to this point, here's your drag stack, which is on your main gear. You're going to want to take it off. Make sure that, sometimes that piece will come with this, but make sure that stays like that. You won't need to mess with any of that for what we're doing. Now what I would suggest doing, just flip it upside down with it all still together. Take something that's small enough to fit in there to pop it out through one of these little holes, and then that's your main gear that's going to go right back on. Now I know this is an air, it doesn't have brass. I've switched out to aluminum 5.8 gears, just mainly for lightweight, but I also find I don't like the real high speeds, and if I need that, I've got the other reels for that. So then if you want, you can flip it back over and then lay out what you're taking them off, basically, is what I would do. So then you can see what you're going to switch out here. So that's pretty much, that's the stack that this reel came with. So what you're switching out is, you can look on this piece of paper, just that's the instructions you'll get if you order one of these. You know, the original parts you'll still use are going to be these two pieces over here, if you can see them. They're going to go right back on. So the first thing you're going to switch out is, instead of this solid piece, basically this is the same thing that's just been cut. So set it there, that's going to go back there. Then you're going to switch out to this style. They're a little bit smaller, I don't know if you can see that, to make room for the clicker, but I still think they're an upgrade over these that come with it. So you're going to switch that with that. Then this is where your clicker comes in, and you can see it's got the little marks on it. So move that out of the way, that's going to go there. Same thing with this, you're switching that out. And then this piece is what I was talking about. This is aluminum. This is lighter weight. It came stock. This is one he sends, but I always leave that out on the, if this is chunks aluminum. It just, overall, I'm always about saving weight, which it's not a huge deal. You'd never notice it if you weren't, I guess, as anal as I am about this. So, and then I've already lightly greased all these pieces just to make sure they're not dry. Cleaned them and then greased them. You're going to basically go back together just the same way in this that it shows here. Now what you'll want to do, because there are different, I almost did that wrong, is these pieces are kind of intertwined as they go on here, so you'll want to get the main gear back on. And then you want to make sure that those three little ears line up and it sets down, you know, flush. And then you want to start stacking them back on. And this one doesn't matter which way it goes. It's not a top or bottom. And then make sure you put one of these in between there. I think they're the same thicknesses. then this piece will go on. This is about the trickiest part. When you go to put it on, you sort of have to make sure that, and it only has 3 now, those 3 of those ears fit inside, right? And then sometimes due to that springiness of this being pushed in, you've got to make sure that kind of seats in there right when you, before you start putting the whole side back on the reel. But so then that's back. And it's clicking, so should be together right. Then the trick to this is you make sure this goes in there and then align that back onto here. A lot of times you can make sure that's right to there, angle it a different way. Now you could take that part out, but I never do. I'm trying to do too much at once here, I think. I'm trying to hold it where you can see it and do it. I think it went in, didn't it? So then you get back to that part, and on the screws I didn't show you taking it apart, but basically you've got 2 that are same size and 1 that's smaller. The short one always goes at the back on the, whether it be an Alphas, a Pixie. Now I think TDZ, they're all the same. The 3 screws are the same length. But so you're going to take the 2 longer ones. And one key to, if you take apart your own reels, is to try to, you know, I've kind of custom cut this. It's just a Craftsman straight, but I've cut it down, made a lot narrower so it works better. Keep from scratching up the finish on the side plate. And you just want to snug it, not real tight yet, and you don't you don't need to go real tight anyway at the end. And go back and kind of same order you put them in, just make sure they're just not, I mean, kind of tight, but you know, don't try to crank them as hard as you can. That's going to be overkill, a chance of stripping stuff and tearing stuff up. They don't need to be that tight. Then the next thing when you come back, which if you have these stacked right, you can just put the stack back on. What I always do is when I come off, I try to lay it down to where when I pick it up with my fingers, I know to go right back on. But if you get messed up, the trick to these is there's your to create the force when you crank this baby down on your drag knob and to keep tension on it at all times. These washers, it's, I don't, you probably won't be able to see it on the camera, but they're basically slightly bent to where you want to make sure that both go back together so they're not bent the same way. Because if I turn this, see, they're perfectly together, that's the wrong way. So you want to take one, turn it around, and it doesn't really matter if you flip them both around. Then you can see on the top they don't match up, and that way would work too. I tend to like to, I don't know, it's just the way I do it. Maybe that's the way they come, to where there's a gap, and you know, the tops and bottoms tend to meet up. But before this goes on, this is the trickiest part. A lot of guys get that mixed up if they lose track which way they went. But you have to remember this little fine washer, it has to go in there first, and what it does is it catches the inside of the bearing that's right here, and you know, keeps the reel from binding up when with pressure pushed on all these what's how the drag works. Because if you were just to put these on without that little thing there, there's very tight tolerances there. You would actually be rubbing on the inside, inner and outer race of the bearing, and that would create all kinds of problems. Now this reel, with the drag and everything, how I have it set up, I actually have a spacer. Some of your reels will have this, some won't. Some will have even more. Then you put that on, then basically you're just go back on with the drag. And all you really need to do is just go a little bit past, you'll need to readjust the drag, go a little bit past where the handle's going to go on. Now on this one I've had spacers. This is actually, I believe this is out of the Zonda. So it's got the nut like a Steez or something. It's a little different than what the Alpha's Air came with. So I got it spaced out a little. Then put your nut back on. Now I still need to, I don't have one. I have yet to order one. The lock, this part here, all I've got to screw. Anyway, then you simply, when I use this here, is I use Ziploc bag or something over what I'm using to tighten it with. That way, keep you from stripping, messing this nut up. And there you go. Bam, it's done. Now have audible drag to where, that fish is bigger than you thought, or the drag setting you initially had, or if you go to crank him in, and I've seen so many people, it's usually beginners, they're just cranking on that handle and nothing's moving. You're like, stop reeling. But that'll let you instantly, if you start doing that and it's not coming, that you're not getting anywhere, this isn't spinning, is the biggest, where I feel it helps me the most. Other than that, it's just cool when something, big just starts going, you're like, oh yeah. So that's it for this one. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. I got more coming. Like I said, I'll probably slap one together real quick while I'm putting this in. It is a little different, taking it apart and putting it back together. But hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Gonna be fishing here very shortly. Thanks for watching.